Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're having a lovely morning wherever you are. My name is Nick. I am the automation lead for Spotify Southeast Asia, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. Streaming to you from Singapore. We heard you like online events, so we're moving all our physical events to online. Just kidding. We really hope to be with you in person, but given the circumstances, this is the best we have. We do hope you are safe and well, and we'll meet again someday in person. With that, welcome to our first ever regional loveAudio series here in Southeast Asia, kicking it off with the programmatic edition. To those who don't know, loveAudio is a global educational online event series hosted by the Spotify advertising team, where we explore various topics on advertising and we bring industry-leading guests together to share their thoughts. Throughout these events, we welcome audiences to submit questions via the Q&A feature, and our subject experts will get back to you with an answer. Some of these questions will also be answered live by our panelists of the event. And today, we will be deep diving into the exciting world of programmatic advertising in a streaming environment, where I'll be sharing with you the current state of audio landscape and advertising in Spotify. Following that, we have industry experts, Tom Weaving from the Trade Desk and Annalisa Andrulli from foodpanda to share their views on the subject. Are you ready? Here we go. Sometime 40 years ago, a track called Video Killed the Radio Star was released, and it sounds like this. Video killed the radio star. Maybe you have heard of it, or maybe you haven't. But that's okay. 40 years was a long time ago. So this song was released when MTV started broadcasting, the same era which we witnessed a decline in radio consumption. Video killed the radio star. How apt. Ever since, we've been living in a visual-led world where consumers are exposed to media in mostly visual formats, and brands are constantly competing for eyeball attention. In recent years, though, the shift from traditional broadcast to an on-demand content, aka the streaming generation, has further impacted the communication between brands and consumers. With these trends in mind, it's no surprise that advertising has followed suit and focused on optimizing for visual attention, where planning, buying, creative, and measurement have been framed around screens. We have now reached a point where screen fatigue is a real issue. Having this keynote online over in person is probably a contributing factor. The irony. In our recent Culture Next report, 55% of our Gen Z users have experienced too much visual stimulation and is turning to audio for an escape. The next decade, we'll see a shift in the rise of screenless media consumption. In fact, the revolution has already begun, and we are seeing these changes in real time. From the devices users are streaming with, think about smart speakers such as the Google Nest, Amazon Alexa, Sonos, to recent audio trends with the rise of platforms such as Clubhouse or YouTube Music. Not forgetting that podcast is also quickly becoming the mainstream. That said, make no mistake, audio is not here to replace visual media. Both formats will coexist and complement each other. We predict that advertising will follow suit, which means audio in the media mix and optimizing for listening attention. Here in Asia, we are seeing these audio trends as well. eMarketer's Global Media Intelligence 2020 reported strong year-on-year growth in the digital audio consumption across Asian markets, where there's a healthy increase in time spent on digital audio streaming platforms in the past years. And this growth is likely accelerated by the current pandemic. As of March 2021, Annie reported 61 million monthly active users on Spotify in Southeast Asia. That's approximately 31% year-on-year growth within the past 3 years. For those who are wondering, out of the 61 million active users, approximately 70% of them are freemium users. These are the users who are exposed to ads on Spotify, which brands can connect with through advertising. The user growth rate is also aligned with our programmatic audio revenue contribution, where it was only 10% in 2018, 28% in 2019, and 39% last year. We believe there are 3 core reasons to this rapid rise of audio trends. Number 1, it's easier than ever to consume audio content, from smartphones to smart speakers to smart TVs, in-car or gaming consoles. Audio streaming apps are included or available in most new age devices and platforms. The improved accessibility made streaming whenever and wherever possible. Aside from that, there are so much great audio content today, so much that we are unlikely to be able to discover all of them within our lifetime. On Spotify alone, we now host 70 million tracks, 4 billion playlists, and 2 million podcast titles. And we are in the process of acquiring and producing more podcasts. So these numbers are constantly growing. Not forgetting other popular content such as audiobooks, ASMR, or atmospheric sound clips. Users in the streaming generation are truly spoiled with options today. Last but not least, technology has enabled us to deliver this amazing content to users in a personalized manner. Think about your Discovery Weekly, Release Radar, or on-repeat playlists. These are all made possible through Spotify streaming intelligence, which is designed to expose listeners to content that is uniquely relevant to them and connecting content creators with potential fans. Now, what does all of this mean to us as brands, marketers, or advertisers? We ask ourselves, how are advertisers capitalizing on these audio trends? Our advertising team in Spotify have ran many programmatic audio campaigns in the past 3 years, and that translates into lots of data and learnings. Now, allow me to share with you the top 4 points to consider when planning for a programmatic audio campaign. First and foremost, audio campaigns works best with an audio-led strategy. Audio enables brands to deliver highly personalized message to multiple audience groups simultaneously. Context is key. The same message from a brand could be delivered in different ways depending on the audience's mood, mindset, and activity. For example, users streaming music from a workout playlist would decipher a message from a brand very differently from a user who is streaming music from a sleep playlist. Therefore, ads needs to be customized to match the context. Now, we have a great example of an audience-led audio asset from PandaMart, and let's listen to it.
PandaMart by foodpanda presents Everyday Dramas.
Oh, someone needs a change of... No more diapers!
For moments like this, turn to PandaMart by foodpanda. Groceries, snacks, alcohol, even healthcare products delivered from store to you in less than 25 minutes, drama-free.
Thanks.
Find PandaMart in your foodpanda app or tap now to install.
So from this audio clip, you can clearly tell that the ad is targeted towards parents. The very same script will likely not going to resonate well with another audience group, such as students or users listening to a party playlist, which will require a very different script that's relatable to them. Again, context. As mentioned earlier, audio and video ads complement each other. Therefore, multi-format campaigns which combines audio, video, and display formats tend to drive better results in terms of recall, awareness, and brand association. While the Spotify platform is known as an audio platform, freemium users do have significant screen time with the app, which is when visual ads are served. The experience for users are seamless. So audio ads are played when the app is in the background, while video or display ads are shown when the app is active on the foreground. This ad serving logic enables our video ads to achieve industry-leading viewability score. Now, another common question that we get a lot in Spotify is on measuring effectiveness of audio campaigns. It's actually not that different from measuring video campaigns. So some of the common metrics used for audio campaigns are completion rate or cost per completed listens, and listen-through conversions for performance campaigns. Well, so if you're running a branding campaign, it can be measured with either brand lift or incremental reach. And not to forget, audio ads on Spotify also comes with a companion banner, which is clickable. Therefore, CTR could be used for measuring engagement. These metrics should be readily available through your DSP or a third-party measurement vendor. Just note one thing that Spotify, we only pass back device IDs and IP addresses as an identifier, which will work with most vendors that you are probably working with already. And just like the wide variety of content on Spotify, our diverse audience reacts differently to every brand and campaign. Fortunately, it's easy to test and learn through programmatic. With market dynamics rapidly changing, there's a constant need to test the effectiveness of existing campaign setup, creative rotation, and targeting parameters. Through Spotify's programmatic offering, testing becomes easier as you can set up new campaigns quickly and implement learnings to existing campaigns even quicker. Programmatic allows for more flexibility to make real-time changes on creative, budget, and frequency cap, giving you maximum control over your campaign and make changes efficiently. So testing and applying learnings is the best way for you to future-proof your brand's media strategy. To summarize, when strategizing for programmatic audio campaigns, think audience first, use multi-formats, apply proper measurement metrics, and A/B test every campaign. With that, please give a warm welcome to Diogo Andrade, Head of Automation at Spotify. And Diogo will be uncovering programmatic audio opportunities and trends with Tom Weaving from the Trade Desk and Annalisa Andrulli from foodpanda. Once again, my name is Nick Ng. Thank you for tuning in.
My name is Diogo. Thank you very much for tuning in to our loveAudio virtual event. I hope you've enjoyed Nick's presentation. I'll be hosting two different fireside chats. The first of which will be with Tom Weaving from the Trade Desk. Some of you might know him. So we're gonna be talking about programmatic, about audio, and about what the Trade Desk is really focusing on in the next 6 to 12 months. That said, hello, Tom.
Hello, mate. Thanks ever so much for having me today. Fantastic to be part of this.
Thank you for accepting our invitation, and I'm looking forward to chat to you. Why don't we kick off with a usual music and podcast question, since we're in a Spotify event. Do you want to share with everyone what bands are you into at the moment and which podcasts, if you're a podcast listener? Obviously.
Sure thing. I definitely am both of those. So bands I'm listening to at the moment, recently got into a band called Lake Street Drive. R&B kind of soul. They did a cover of Rich Girl by Hall & Oates, which is an absolute classic and one of my all-time favorites as well. Another song listening to is Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars. That's been stuck in my head for about a month, but I'm pretty happy with that because I love them both too. And then J. Cole's new album, I think, will be on my most played this year. I'm ready for my year in review to see how it stack ranks against the others.
Nice. What about podcasts?
Podcasts, yeah. Start my day with BBC News Global every day. And then for a bit of fun, I listen to something called Off Menu, which is a couple of British comedians, Ed Gamble and James Acaster. And then for more serious work stuff, I listen to things like Pivot or Ad Exchanger Talks, which is all about the programmatic industry and trends and themes they're seeing.
Thanks for making my life easier with this transition. pretty easy now. So deep diving into programmatic, obviously that's why we're here, and obviously that's where the Trade Desk is leading the charge. I think it'd be nice to just kick us off if you can give a general overview of trends that are happening within your platform, and obviously that your team is seeing with agencies and with brands in the region. It would be really interesting to know.
Yeah, for sure, mate. So the Trade Desk is a demand-side platform, a DSP, and it's an omni-channel DSP, meaning that we can run across digital, video, audio, and other channels too. And we've really seen that use of the platform being capitalized on in the last, say, 6 months, since the lockdown restrictions and the advertising kind of limitations which happened along with that that coincided with the lockdown, we've really seen kind of brands start to be out in market more. And when they are out in market, they're seeking audiences in places they previously weren't necessarily activating them. That is in little pockets of inventory across gaming and also things like audio. So we've seen a extended use of more channels being booked through the Omni channel platform. Another trend which we're seeing in terms of that buying habit is more scrutiny that goes with the buying. So ensuring then that the dollars invested into media are effective. So you've seen a bit of an increase in the measurement side of that too, just to ensure that where investment is being made, it is effective too.
That's good to know, actually. Well, hopefully those will be trends that are here to stay. On your first note of obviously attention and you know, where users are spending more time and how you guys are actually seeing that from an inventory point of view.
Yeah.
In Singapore, we've just announced a few restrictions again with COVID, and we've seen obviously a very weird year and a half. How do you think actually the pandemic is affecting the way that brands and agencies are using programmatic? Do you think it's helping the cause? Do you think it comes with further challenges? Like, what is your opinion actually?
Yeah, I think that the pandemic and everyone being at home has really accelerated trends that I think we already saw happening, but it's probably suppressed them from 5 years, 3 years, 1 year into a very short 9 and 12-month period instead. And by that I mean just the way they were interacting with media, the levels of consumption, and what we are adopting. So you'll have seen from your numbers, we see your numbers, and OTT streaming numbers generally are on the rise. People are spending more time online, either escaping or looking for distraction or entertainment. And what that then offers the opportunity for brands to do is engage with those audiences in a really engaging manner, in a one-to-one manner, through audio, through video, and there are more opportunities to have that interaction with the target audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I do believe that technology will be helpful, I think, for marketers, as they need to be more agile and quicker, and having access to a demand side platform will make their lives 10 times easier. Or
I think so.
We would hope so.
Yeah.
On your last notes, obviously talking about attention and the growth of audio, I think a lot of people in this audience and listening to this event are curious about understanding what the advancements have been with programmatic audio, but they might not have yet bought or traded audio programmatically. So can you give a bit of context as well from a trade desk standpoint? What kind of advancements have you seen in programmatic audio? Not obviously restricted to Spotify, but how do you see programmatic audio growing, and some tips as well from your side?
Yeah, sure. So audio was fairly nascent a few years ago, and it was a little bit misunderstood of how and where it fits into omni-channel campaigns, or even just digital campaigns. And I think now, through the years of education which we've been doing either together or individually, I think that has really started to resonate and land with agencies and brands, and we're seeing the momentum of that pick up. A really good indicator for that from the industry-wide is seeing a lot of traditional radio broadcasters bringing that inventory available digitally and programmatically, because as we've already alluded to, consumption habits have changed. Like, we've all moved into this digital and online arena, where it really offers those brands the ability to target them in this one-to-one, accountable, measurable manner. And I think that is one of the massive benefits that programmatic and digital advertising offers. It's the accountability, the scrutiny, the targeting, the measurement. That is what we really are able to bring in an additive fashion when purchased programmatically.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that existing, not only the consumption is there, but starting to see a marketplace as well for audio from a programmatic standpoint is, it's increasingly important, so that brands and agencies can think of audio as more of a priority.
Yeah.
On that note, like, from your position and obviously managing a team that is speaking to brands and agencies on a daily basis, how would you recommend some of the buyers that we speak to actually enter the space of programmatic audio from a measurement, or how would you speak to them?
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see the adoption of programmatic audio into more and more campaigns, and then become like a standard within them. And the kind of on-ramp to fitting that into a schedule which is rebooked and becomes standardized is to first think of audio as those upper funnel metrics, align it with the video KPIs that everyone is very, very familiar with and understands the importance of. That is a very kind of simple way. If you put the two next to each other, that is how and where audio can fit in your programmatic schedule and program. And then we've seen a kind of development of that. So the 2.0 or the more advanced version is then being able to track the interactions with users on the trade desk on a path to conversion report, and it shows how we've interacted with an individual user. So we'll have shown them an audio ad or played them an audio ad, shown them a video ad and seen a display ad, and we can see then how that has informed a purchase or an action or a KPI that is required from a brand. And when you see it in action like that, it's irrefutable of how it informs the end decision and end goal that we're after.
Yeah, I wish it was that easy, but but I hear you, and I think it's a good tip to someone trying and testing digital audio and using audio streaming, obviously, to serve ads to users, to actually compare it to video to start with, and allow them to as well have a full view of the efficiency of what they're running, down to a conversion, a performance, or an action, which I think it's pretty valuable. On a final note, so obviously, again, you and your team have a very good grasp of what's happening in the market and how things are moving. The next 6 to 12 months might be actually crucial for us, obviously from identity, but also adoption of audio. But what do you see as the big challenges and what's coming up from your point of view as obviously a trade desk perspective?
Yeah, I think that the vast majority of conversations that myself, the team are having at the moment have a underpinning or foundation within identity. So the future identity, what is identity going to look like? And real quick piece of information for those who aren't aware, cookies are being deprecated by Google. Within the Google platform, we're not going to be able to target third-party cookies anymore. So that means there's a real drive, a real importance at the moment for brands and agencies to have first-party data plans, and it's imperative that we work with supply partners who are able to pass that first-party data and offer the fantastic level of relevant targeting to target audiences, so they want to engage with the messages that we are displaying and sharing with them. So that future of identity is on the tip of the tongues in most of the meetings that we're having. The trade desk spearheaded a solution called Unified ID 2.0, which is an upgrade to what cookies are. It is everything that they can do, but with consented user information to make sure, essentially, that we maintain what we call the quid pro quo of the internet. Consumers see fantastic content by receiving adverts. Through Unified ID 2.0 and other solutions, we'll be able to make sure that those ads are most relevant to keep on driving the interactions, the engagements, and the level of relevancy that we are able to achieve today.
Yeah, it's super useful, and obviously a conversation we also have internally as a platform. I guess we're lucky for operating in an in-app environment where device ID has been the way we trade anyway for.
Perfectly positioned, and that's how you can offer such amazing targeted capabilities that you already can.
Yeah, we hope that there's that advantage, but yeah, to all marketers and brands and agencies out there, this will be obviously key for everything that is going to happen in the next year. And how do you see, like, as a final one, obviously again, this situation of working from home, of brands having to rethink how they sell their products, in e-commerce and everything. Is there anything else that you would like to share around that point of view?
Yeah, I think that Singapore has just gone back into lockdown, but there are many markets which have remained in, and there's other markets where it's kind of getting worse still too, or at least it's not abating just yet. So I think the message that we've had is lead with empathy, but also be relevant, but make sure that we're showing messages which resonate and are meaningful at the moment. I don't think now is the time for a hard sell for anybody. I think it is all about, leading with empathy and making sure that the messages we're showing are relevant and timely, and appreciate the situation that a lot of the world will find themselves in, which is not the easiest. I'd also just, on the flip side of that, say that there is a massive opportunity here for brands to be relevant. People are spending more and more time online. We both mentioned, the increase in streaming avails that we see across audio, across video. These are moments where we can delicately be with consumers, with brand target audiences, in a really powerful moment where we're escaping the noise, the trauma, the world outside the windows, basically. There is an opportunity for us to be relevant and for us to be with people, when times are hard.
No, excellent. I totally agree. I think these two kind of ways of seeing the next 6 to 12 months, be relevant, understand where consumption's happening, and tailor your message. I think it's very important. And identity, because I think if you don't know who you're targeting and you're not preparing for that, then what's the point of having the right message or crafting your business? No, excellent. Tom, thank you so much for sharing all those insights. Hope you enjoyed the conversation with Tom. Great takeaways, and good to understand how the Trade Desk is thinking, and how a tech partner is looking into programmatic and audio specifically. Right after, we're going to have Annalisa from foodpanda, where we're going to cover all the same topics, but from a brand point of view. If you have any questions for Tom, don't forget to use the Q&A box. We will be answering, the three of us, all your questions at the end in the live Q&A. Hi everyone, me again. Hope you enjoyed the chat I just had with Tom. I think quite nice and interesting takeaways from a tech point of view. Up next, we have Annalisa from foodpanda, who heads marketing for the company here in Singapore. And it would be obviously a totally different perspective into programmatic and audio. First of all, Annalisa, thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me today.
Lovely. And I think similar to what we've done with Tom, to kind of as an icebreaker, and as we're in a Spotify event, we would love to hear as well from you what kind of music you've been listening to in the past weeks, and also podcasts, if you can, if you're a podcast listener. Also.
Yeah, of course. So actually, I'm recently back on practicing on my electronic drums and guitar. So I would say that I'm into good old school music, classic, like, Blink-182, Guns N' Roses, and all of that. But obviously, I do have my own guilty pleasure, which I'm not gonna disclose as they are very guilty. But also, I'm Italian, so sometimes when I feel nostalgic, I listen to a lot of Italian songs, I would say. And yes, when it comes to podcasts, I actually started listening to them, especially when I found myself stuck in the apartment last year during the lockdown. And so since then, I've been exploring more and more formats, more and more author. So I would say that it depends a lot on what I'm doing, or the type of mood I'm at. But if I have to tell you my top 3, it would be Song Exploder, which I strongly recommend if you are a music lover, because especially if you always wonder how your favorite tune came into life, that's the podcast. So it's quite inspirational in that sense. And then more on the professional side, I like to listen to the Prof G Show from the professor Scott Galloway. He usually responds and answer questions from his listener about basically how to level up your game when you are at work. And last, but definitely not least, Master of Scale from co-founder Reid Hoffman. It's quite interesting because he interviews many successful entrepreneurs on how they basically managed to go from startups into global brands. So a lot of stories, a lot of strategies, quite inspiring as well.
Nice, love it. I love the Song Explorer one, by the way. There's a Netflix show, I think, by the same guys that have the podcast. It's really good. I really enjoy it. Okay, well, let's dig into more work questions. I'm really sorry, but it has to be. Good to kind of know that you're obviously a platform user of audio, and I think it's good for everyone to kind of understand what audio means from a user point of view. But I think one of the things that comes with audio streaming is data. And for us, obviously at Spotify, data is very important. But I know for you at foodpanda, data is probably even more important because it's at the center of everything you guys do. How can you share a little bit more on how you operate your data? You know, how do you make marketing decisions based on data? Because I think it would be very interesting for the audience.
Yeah, thanks for your question. I would say that data is king, and not only a foodpanda, but in general, I think it became some sort of a buzzword, and I think for the whole good reasons. At foodpanda, we are strong believer that by leveraging the power of our insights and working closely with our BI, we can make more informed decisions that obviously help us a lot in our growth and evolution. And especially recently, when we basically went from a single vertical to a multi-vertical business. Yeah. So it's not only anymore about food delivery, but it's food delivery, grocery, pickup, and more options. It's absolutely even more important to look at data, because obviously we need to understand who is our food customer, who is our pickup customer, who is our grocery customer. And so we need to analyze the whole funnel from prospect to acquisition to retention, and possibly also how we can create cross-vertical opportunities. So data is absolutely important, and obviously has also a huge impact in the way we buy our media, because obviously not everyone respond to the same message in the same channel. So yeah, I would say media buying and content has been hugely impacted by the way we look at media. But especially as a marketeer, I would say that I have always some things to have in mind, because especially when it comes to data, sometimes we want data to tell us what we need to hear to back up our strategies or our thinking. So it's really important that we need to guard ourselves against our own biases, because sometimes we look at them in a very wrong way. So we need to be impartial, or we need to run them very independently from what we want them to tell us. And also, as a marketeer, it's always important to define our campaign objective, because obviously different channels have different objective and different KPIs in that sense. So if we are running an awareness campaign, well, it's very different from an acquisition campaign. So we can't look at the same KPI. So for example, we can't look at CPA. It would be a very unfair and comparison in that sense. And that's why also I'm leaning very far away from the last click attribution model, because I think that these days we need to attribute the right weight to each channel from literally upper to bottom funnel. And lastly, I would say that also we need to evolve our data, because what worked yesterday or even today might not work tomorrow. So we need to keep refreshing our data. We need to keep evolving our decision based on them. So, I'm a stronger believer of A/B testing and keep refreshing data, because again, not all the time what worked yesterday will work today, especially in this very dynamic, I would say, situations.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. A lot to unpack there. I think it's quite good to have someone in marketing that thinks like that. It's quite important, obviously, everything that you're talking there, from measurement to data enablement to cross attribution. I think it's things that we also speak at Spotify quite a lot, but it's good to hear it from a marketing point of view. And I hope agencies and marketers on the call can actually learn from how you guys operate. On that note, I also know that programmatic buying and technologies is quite important for you guys to achieve all those goals and to use that data. Can you kind of explain a little bit better for someone who wants to learn how programmatic fits into a strategy? How it's do's and don'ts, or any learnings that you want to share?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as marketeers, we can't ignore the impact of programmatic in this digital world. So the technology behind it is having a great impact in the way both how users interact with brands, but at the same time on the way brands generate ROI. The efficiency and the automation in purchasing media in a programmatic way is making the whole process extremely fast and scalable. But I would say that if I have to say what's the biggest benefit for us in using programmatic, it will be to have one only ecosystem that basically consolidate data from upper to bottom funnel. So this holistic view, I think that for marketeer is extremely invaluable, because again, it gives you an 100% and 360-degree type of measurement that otherwise won't be possible. So I would say this is absolutely the top benefit that especially when we buy programmatically, we have. But at the same time, I would say that, you know, programmatic works when you use it correctly. So obviously you need to look at it for what it is. So obviously the benefit of programmatic is that you can target your target audience with the right message and at the best possible time. So it's important that, you know, marketeers invest as well in content, because again, we need to provide dynamic content to make sure that our audience can use it and can digest it. So this is obviously important, and it's totally up to us on how we use programmatic in that sense. And as I said before, I would say that it's also important to look at the different campaigns that we run programmatically in a very precise way. So we need to attribute an unique objective to each of the campaigns. So again, if we are running an awareness campaign, we need to be aware that this is an awareness campaign versus if we are running, let's say, a more lower funnel campaign, so that to drive, let's say, engagement or orders. So yeah, I would say that this is how we look at programmatic here at foodpanda.
Yeah, I like how it ties actually back to your KPI setting priorities, and setting things properly is important, you know, ultimately on how you use technology. But I also loved your both things you said about A/B testing, but also how to actually create content and creative that you can actually serve to the right user, because otherwise it's pointless to have one video asset, but then serve it to 10 different audiences if it doesn't work like that. And it's something that we actually speak a lot on the audio front, because obviously Spotify works a lot better if you're actually targeting the user in the right moment with the right message. So is quite relevant to us. On that note, it'd be lovely to hear from you, because obviously foodpanda has been quite a good supporter of Spotify across the region, but in Singapore as well, in using audio and using audio creative actually quite smartly. Could you give any advice as well on how audio fits into your marketing strategies as well? So we can hear like the full spectrum of, you know, what are your priorities, how you think of data and measurement, how you think of programmatic in that ecosystem, but also how you've used audio to complement everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be honest, I think that audio programmatic is the natural extension of online advertising these days. And I think it's, especially at foodpanda, it's becoming more and more of a bigger deal. Because I mean, all of us and all the users are basically online 24/7, which means that basically we are all bombarded by visual media and by, you know, media in general. And I think that audio programmatics offer a great way to engage with, you know, our target user in a more safer way, where basically screen is not an option. And also we engage with our audience when they are more, let's say, relaxed, or overall they have a bit of a better mood in that sense. And it's also very important to understand that, you know, while visual ads are served many at the times, with audio it's just one at a time. So for us, it's great because we have basically the full attention of the user. And as I said before, in a moment where it's more, let's say, has a better mood in that sense. Also because, I mean, every time I listen to an audio programmatically, it's quietly unlikely that I will, you know, take the phone out of my pocket to post the ads. Whereas if I'm scrolling through my feed and I see some, I don't know, visual ads and whatnot, I most likely, like, I will skip it or just disregard it. So I think that overall, especially considering, you know, the evolution of the current situation, I would say that audio is playing a great role for us. And obviously Spotify has been an amazing part in that sense. And our data show absolutely nice results so far. So even when it comes to brand recall, listeners are highly engaged with us. So also compared to, you know, visual counterpart in that sense. And also actually when it comes to the lower funnel, so when we go more towards, you know, purchase, I would say that the first data of the first campaigns are highly positive in that sense. So again, I would say that a programmatic audio is an opportunity to capitalize on a higher positive sentiment, especially now with these evolving times.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's music to our ears, as you can imagine. It's what we talk on a daily basis. So it's good to hear from you and explain how it fits into your overall strategies and how it brings some value, obviously, in the way you think of your customers and their attention, and obviously visual fatigue as well. One last question, because we still have a little bit of time. If you think of your next 6 to 12 months, could you share with us what your priorities will look like? You know, if you have any plans that are interesting for other people to know, obviously nothing confidential, but just how you think the next 6 to 12 months will look like from a marketing perspective, and what do you think is going to be a priority?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that also, I mean, the last recent year has challenged all of us, right? So things have changed, and so also the way we look at things and we look at media buying is evolving and is changing. And so, especially in the past, where we were, you know, as marketeer, we like to plan things ahead, like even like yearly plans. I think given the recent even developments, for example, in Singapore, we can allow ourselves to have that longer term plans. So we need to be super reactive, but at the same time proactive and flexible in, you know, adjust our priorities and listen to our customers and our user, because again, anything can change from one day to another, given the, you know, the current situation. So I would say that for us, we are putting a lot of effort in, you know, in improving our media buying in that sense, because again, some of the traditional media, especially if we are locked up in our home, it's not effective anymore. So we still need to think 360 degree, but I would say a lot of efforts. It's going to be about how to best allocate our budget, given, you know, the new situation, and given that obviously we need to listen to our customers, we need to be close to them and understand how their behaviors is evolving and adjust on our side as well.
Yeah, I think that agility is going to be super important, no? Like, because there's so much uncertainty and in understanding how people are shifting habits and everything. So as a marketer, it must be actually quite challenging times, I would say. Not easy.
Indeed.
Thank you very much, Annalisa, for sharing this with us. It was super useful. I took a lot of good insights actually from your point of view and how you think. I think it will be good for everyone to know. Again, hope you find that useful. That concludes our fireside chats, and we're going to proceed to the live Q&A, where Annalisa is going to join myself and Tom. So make sure that you use the question box to put any questions that you have for the three of us, and we'll answer them as best as we can during this next 15 minutes. Thank you very much. Let me invite back Tom and Annalisa so we can go through the Q&A. Joseph has asked, how do you think brands who are deeply seated in the programmatic space buying display and video can reposition themselves to trade in audio as well? Is this a difficult process with long timelines? I can add some light to this, but Annalisa, if you want to share your perspective, since the question is more for brands.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for the question. Well, to be honest, I think that the process for us wasn't actually that bad, as in it was quite smooth. Also because, again, as I mentioned before, we like to think 360 degree. So for us, again, when we sit down with our creative team and talk about our campaigns, for us, also audio in terms of, you know, what type of content, creative message, and all of that, we already, you know, think about that in a very early stage. And then again, with partner like you guys, also the, you know, the production and the actually go live of the campaigns, it's quite smooth. And again, it doesn't differ much from any other media buy in that sense. So it's quite easy. The campaign measurement are similar. So I would say that the transition for us was quite smooth. But obviously, again, as a marketer, we always need to think 360 degrees. So I would, you know, suggest to also think about audio when we brainstorm in the very early stage of our campaign planning, because again, it's becoming more and more part of our strategy.
Yeah, I would echo as well what Tom mentioned as well on measurement and how easy it is to actually run audio. I think the key part that Annalisa touched upon, and I think it's useful for everyone, is creative. So make sure you either partner with a studio or your creative agency has capabilities to actually produce audio assets. Or obviously, in the case of some brands, they partner with us and we partner with a third-party studio to help with that. But yeah, creative is key to have that asset, and then obviously have access to the technology and just measure it in the same way you would video or display. Anything you want to add, Tom, or I can move to the next one?
No, I think all covered off. It's as easy as, you know, looking at the metrics that you run and the positioning with video. I think Nick mentioned it at the very start of the whole presentation and event, actually. Aligning those two is a perfect way to think and insert audio into any programmatic or digital buy.
Great. Okay, good segue to the second question I have here, which is how do audio ads actually perform against video ads? If you think of think of the usual metrics, you think of video. Do you want to start, Tom? Because you obviously see this more.
Yeah, sure. So we had a case study that ran in the Philippines, and it was, you know, largely upper funnel branding, but with the overall goal of driving footfall to a fast food restaurant. And some of the audio completion rates that we were seeing were up to 95% and above, so fantastically well in terms of performance there. And then being able to, you know, see how that completed listen actually drove business outcomes, driving people into a store to buy something, super important and absolutely achievable.
Annalisa, do you want to add anything? I think you mentioned before how you're pretty unbiased when looking at both formats, but anything you want to add from your end?
Yeah, I mean, as mentioned, and also as Tom is sharing, I mean, it's always important to consider also at which stage of the funnel the audio ads comes through. So obviously, again, we look at data, but we look at them in a very 360 degree again, and pretty unbiased in the for that sense. So yeah, nothing more to add.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I have nothing to add as well from my side. I think this one could be good for you, Tom, and it's a bit repetitive, but I think I'd love to hear from you once again. How does audio fit into an omni-channel buy? That's the question that we got.
Yeah, I mean, it's as previously mentioned, you know, you were able to insert it alongside those upper funnel branding metrics. Omni can just be many as well. It doesn't have to be every channel. It could be a handful of channels. It could be just video and audio. They complement each other very well. It could be audio and display. So I would say positioning in those in that environment with those associations, that's the easiest way to kind of think about and then enter. And if the brand is looking to explore it, that's the really easy way to associate what you can expect from audio programmatically booked campaigns. And yeah, speak to agencies, listen to brands, and speak to Spotify and the Trade Desk, and we can help get those things started and clarified for what it matters to a brand.
Yeah, I'm just going to echo that, Annalisa. I know you're going to say very similar, or make similar points. I do completely agree with Tom and Annalisa that, you know, it's another format. It's another way to advertise to users. There's nothing else to complicate here, but it's definitely not something you should do in a silo, and I think it should be just part of an overall strategy, the same way that radio was part of the strategy of offline back in the day, and still is in some way or form. I have another question here, which I can answer, but I think Tom, you probably know as well, which is asking if podcast targeting is actually available programmatically.
What I'd like to share here is just the excitement and the buzz around podcasting too as well. So I'll let you go with the capabilities there. But for me, we get to speak to all the agencies, all the brands that are executing and booking and delivering campaigns to the Trade Desk programmatically across all different channels. There is such a buzz in and around podcasting and what it means. So yeah, super exciting. I saw some stats which are saying by 2024 there's going to be more podcast streams than music. So a real interesting place of development there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can obviously answer this question more from a technical standpoint. So Spotify announced obviously in CES, I believe, this year, a technology called streaming ad insertion, which is essentially allowing ad slots to be created around podcast content. It's not something we have available yet in Southeast Asia, as we're building our own content stream and exclusive content to be able to trade that at scale. But we have podcast signals, and that's something that we've been discussing with brands and agencies. So anyone that is interested to understand what kind of top podcast vertical content and consumption exists in your market, and then be able to retarget users that consume podcasts while they're listening to music. This is totally possible, and something that we're already trading with a few of our partners, and definitely a space, I totally agree, that is quite interesting. Even listening to Tom and Annalisa sharing their own personal consumption of podcasts, I think it's definitely something that we'll continue to see a trend on, and hopefully be able to trade at a larger scale than we can now, which is just purely retargeting. Great. I mean, I think this question was answered by Tom during his presentation, but I'll let Annalisa actually share her thoughts. What do you suggest for advertisers who want to try audio ads for the first time? A bit repetitive, but I know, Annalisa. But...
Yeah, I mean, we already mentioned, but it's key that we don't do audio ad just as a standalone. So it needs to be part of a campaign for a bigger impact. So let's make sure that, you know, we use and we leverage on audio ads when it's a part of a bigger campaign. And involve the creative and spend time and effort also when it comes to the creation of the audio ads. But as long as it's part of the same, you know, campaign and as part of the same 360 degree thinking, I would say that the process should be quite smooth. Also when it comes to the creation, to the process, to the, you know, to the go live and the measurement.
Yeah, excellent. I think that's kind of answered, and Tom obviously mentioned during his panel and conversation of also that, you know, it is quite straightforward. If you want to try it, you can always reach out, especially if you have a seat on TTD. You should definitely reach out to your rep and ask more for more advice, because obviously they can help you as well. Yeah, you try at least. Okay, next question. More users are streaming on smart speakers, smart TVs, and gaming consoles. How can we actually target these users on these devices? I can start off from my end, but I would love to hear actually Tom's thoughts overall. We do see a trend, obviously, with consumption on these type of devices. I think the challenge has been to actually find scale. It is obviously typically these type of devices are being used by premium users, not so much free. So we tend to see more the free users more using mobile and desktop. I do think this is going to continue to grow, and probably we will have scale in the next 1 to 2 years. But it's been challenging actually for us to programmatically be able to target these devices. And on that point, I would love to hear from you, Tom, like how you actually see this overall, obviously not Spotify, because I think it would be interesting to know.
Yeah, sure thing. So there are more devices in households than before. People own more of them. And essentially, if there is an internet connection and an ad is delivered through an app environment, that is where we are able to then place those ads. Of course, there are different, you know, people consuming content through connected televisions on app, as you mentioned, may have subscribed or not be on the freemium model. So it is purely a case of where there is the availability to deliver those ads through internet connected devices in app. For that reason, we can't run through speakers at the moment. But yeah, the others are all a go.
Interesting. Actually, Annalisa, on that point, just to wrap it up, like, do you guys do much around this type of devices, or it doesn't really matter from your strategy standpoint?
It's actually getting more and more an interesting, you know, strategy to involve in our planning, because as we said, like user behavior are changing, user consumption are changing, and as I mentioned before, also the type of you know, mood that user are when they are consuming different type of media is a bit different. So we are actually spending and investing a bit more in all this channel. But again, as always, needs to be a part of a bigger strategy, but definitely like something that we are investing more and more.
Yeah, that's excellent to know. I think that's kind of the time that we have for Q&A. Thank you very much, guys. There's actually a funny question here. Where does Diogo shop for his shirts? Just so you guys know, I tried to convince Tom to wear a flowery shirt too, but he just showed up in a black t-shirt, which is pretty disappointing.
It was a competition that I could never win.
Yeah, there you go. I'll thank you guys once again for joining us. Really thankful for having you guys as partners, and obviously for listening to your insights. I'm sure that everyone took a lot of information from that will be helpful in their day-to-day lives. So thank you again, guys, for joining us. Appreciate it. And thanks for everyone, obviously, tuning into the event. It really feels weird not to see everyone's face, and not being face-to-face and in front of you as an audience, and being able to see your reaction. But I'm really thankful that you tuned in virtually to listen to us. Final one, obviously your feedback is important. You heard along the way our team asking for you guys to please use the QR code that you can see now on the screen. Just give us our feedback. It would be really useful for us to take in account for next events and for anything that we do with our partners. Once again, my name is Diogo. Thank you for joining us. And until we meet again, stay safe and stay well.